दोस्तों गुड मॉर्निंग। इट्स वंडरफुल वेदर एंड मैं आपके साथ एक बात करने वाला हूँ अबाउट चाइना। नाउ चाइना has become like the bull in the china shop, and people having a feeling that the Chinese army is omnipotent and they got tremendous strength and firepower. And so there's this feeling of awe of the Chinese army. You know, feeling of awe. You feel, well, they are the most powerful country in the world of America, theoretically. But practically, you must remember that China has not fought a war since 1979. That was the time they fought the war against Vietnam, and they didn't do very well. You know that. The last war before that was in 62, and there was a minor skirmish in 67, which they lost badly against India. Though in the 62 war, they had the element of surprise and they had a victory. So, gentlemen, the question arises, where is the Chinese army now? The example of their efficiency can be seen from the fact that a nuclear submarine with 55 persons on board sank in the South China Sea, I think, or maybe I think in the Sea of Japan, and all the 55 crew members were killed. So it shows serious lacuna in working procedures. And then they have two aircraft carriers, but they have no operational experience of using them. Haven't got them just about a decade back. So in terms of the naval forces are concerned, I don't think they have much of a capability. And if they had the capability, the amphibious capability, they would have by now launched an attack on Taiwan. And let's accept the fact that the time is running out for the Chinese, and if they don't attack Taiwan now, they won't be able to do it for the next 10 years or 20 years. Because Taiwan is going to go from strength to strength, and who knows, they may get a nuclear bomb also. And China will have to think twice before they go to and attack Taiwan. Now, as far as the Chinese army is concerned, it's the largest army in the world, and almost about 2.5 million men and arms. And their biggest theater command is the one which they're facing in Tibet against India, because they have realized that the main danger which they have to their hegemony over the world is India. Now, how efficacy or efficient is the Chinese army? And there are a lot of people talking around. I know one colonel who's holding some video talks every day, or maybe, and he goes around saying the Chinese army is invincible. They got artificial intelligence. They got this thing. They got that thing, and in the next battle it will be a different ball game and all that. You know, I think he must be living in a bit of fool's paradise, because the Chinese army has got a serious moral problem. Now, what's that moral problem? That's the one son syndrome. Now, I had a person who was working under me, a Chinese worker whose son was in the army, and this gentleman was very scared because he had only one son, and if he had died in the battle in China against the Chinese, he would have the mortification of seeing his family tree being extinguished. So that one son syndrome is playing hell with the Chinese. There are more boys than girls, number one. And number two, the Chinese have a demographic problem. The population is aging, and the few sons who are available now, nobody wants to risk them that they should go and die in the battleground. So this is affecting the morale of the Chinese army. That's what I feel. An actual battle, you know, a man who comes as a conscript for 4 years is not going to want to die there and then go away, you know, and to the next world. So this is a major problem that the Chinese have. And Chinese army has never fought at the high altitude battles, say in Ladakh and other places. And they're going to become a cropper there, because you need experience. As I told you, Chinese army hasn't fought a war since 79, and all they can do is have a lot of bravado talk and spit and polish, but that's not enough to win a war. You must have seen the Russians didn't have a war for so many decades, and then came down to the brass tacks of the battle in Ukraine. They've been found wanting. They haven't been able to win this Ukraine battle. That is because they, after 45, the first war with the Russians really fought significantly was in the guerrilla war in Afghanistan, and after 88 they hadn't fought a war at all. And they hadn't fought a war in Europe in the conditions there. So there's no experience to battle. With the American army, I will say, despite they've been losing, have been fighting a lot of battles here and there. And so is the Indian army, which has been fighting the Pakistanis, and they've won a lot of battles against them. And of course, they're facing internal destruction, and even now they're facing the Chinese. But they're denying the fact, gentlemen, that the Chinese army is formidable, no doubt about it on paper. But I don't know whether in actual combat they're going to be that successful. I mean, you may have tanks, you may have everything, but you need the basic factor is the esprit de corps and the morale. And then, as Field Marshal Montgomery said, you need the infantry soldier to hold the ground. Now that is where the Chinese army has the Achilles heel, because their soldiers are just not acclimatized for battle, number one. Number two, the one son syndrome is there, is going to play hell into the Chinese morale. Nobody who has one son wants to die in the army and get the family tree extinguished. And this is not a small point, it's a very major point as far as the morale of the Chinese army is concerned. And secondly, another important thing is that the weapons which they produce are definitely of very inferior quality compared to what the Americans and the Russians have got. Now, I can give you an example. They had made a fifth generation fighter. They copied it, the Chengdu J-20, but it's just a fourth generation fighter. There's nothing special about it. And Chinese industry is good. It's a good backup, and that is the only reason that China is able to swing the world and create a feeling of awe. So that feeling of awe which the Chinese have created is what really matters, because though they may be a paper tiger, but the feeling is there. Well, they got a lot of weapons, a lot of armor, big army and all that, and they can throw all these people into battle. It's not so easy, let me tell you this. Now the Chinese are fishing all over the world for allies, but they don't have the capability to sustain a campaign there. Now that's another fact we should remember. China does not have the capacity to sustain a battle outside the local areas. Like, for example, the Maldives. The Maldives are thinking that China is going to come to their help, and they're cocking a snook in India. I don't think Chinese are going to fight for Maldives. And in any case, to fight a battle in the Maldives is going to be next to impossible for them, where the Indian Navy is supreme. The Chinese have been supporting Iran, but they haven't been able to come openly in battle in favor of them. And in a way, they are also basically supporting the Houthis, who are going around creating havoc in the Gulf of Aden. So, and despite the Americans carrying out multiple strikes, the Chinese have only been just making noises and nothing else. So, gentlemen, the question is, the Chinese army really knows that they cannot fight a sustained battle, and that is the point that really matters. As I told you, numbers alone do not make up our army. You need the morale, and that is where the Chinese army is, I think, suspect. This is my assessment of the situation. I don't think one should really read too much into the strength of the Chinese army or the Chinese Air Force. Most of the planes have to operate against India and Tibet, and the payload is going to be reduced by that much. So they'll not be at full potent strength, and the advantage will be with the Indian Air Force. Of course, they're not a walkover. It doesn't mean that China is going to get defeated and give a walkover. They'll put in a good fight. But the fact is that the odds are stacked against their favor. I think, gentlemen, I'll close this video now and say goodbye to you. I hope you like my video. Share it with your friends. Come back for more. In the meanwhile, God bless and bye-bye.